Deputy Beshear, who says that the president's first 100 days have been filled with chaos and cruelty. Governor Beshear, good to have you here today. Thank you very much for joining me. You hear this back and forth going on as the president's policy is going to place, and clearly there has been some rockiness in the markets, which the president has conceded to. But he's saying, look, you got to hang in there. This is just the beginning of the process of righting our global trade relationships. What do you say?
Well, as governor, you see the real impacts of these policies on your people. And what we see right now are prices going up on American families that are struggling. We see small businesses that have to import certain supplies and will have to continue to import those supplies, having a rough time and even starting to lay people off. And then the chaos of the on again, off again, on again tariffs, them going from across the board to reciprocal to industry specific. All this is creating an environment that ultimately is making it harder for people to get by.
Well, let me ask you a question.
I believe President Trump won that last election because people believed he'd make paying bills at the end of the month just a little bit easier. I think this tariff policy is misguided, and I think it's making it harder on those same folks.
You know, it's interesting because, just as an example, do you think it makes sense that there aren't any American cars driving around in Japan or in Germany when we have so many of our auto manufacturers working hard? I'm going to show you in a second Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, standing side by side with the president. But do you think that there are trade imbalances out there that it is worth righting?
I think that there are always nuances to trade policy that we can and we should work on. But I think it's more complicated than the example you gave, because the largest Toyota plant in the entire world is in Georgetown, Kentucky. 11,000 plus employees, all Americans, all earning a great living, creating a car that used to have the most American parts in the country. And so when you look at different policies with different countries, you also have to look at foreign direct investment and the amount of jobs that it creates
there's
here.
Like $5 trillion in incoming foreign investment in the country to build plants. We're going to hear announcements on that this afternoon. I guess all I'm saying is, isn't it worth kind of giving some of this a try, since he did win all of the swing states across the country, which I know he points out quite often. But I guess the question is, the things that voters were looking for and that got him elected, righting our trade situation, fixing the border, doesn't it make sense to have at least a grace period for this American president to see if some of this will work?
Yeah, I believe that Donald Trump isn't president because he talked about trade policies. He's president because he talked about making it easier for the American people to get by, and that these trade policies are doing the exact opposite. This idea that we can reshore immediately when factories take 3 to 5 years to build, and even when they're being built.
Why not begin the process,
we have reshored manufacturing
Why not begin the process?
in a significant way.
Yeah.
And our projects are being paused, and they're being stalled because even when you're building that new factory, you do have to import certain goods. So I think you just have facts about how this is hitting the economy. And listen, I'm not trying to root against the president. I'm not trying to do this because I'm a Democratic governor and he's a Republican president. I'm doing it because I can support any administration that helps our people. But it's my job to speak out when the policies hurt our people.
So, I mean, obviously it's been going in the wrong direction in terms of manufacturing in this country, and whether or not we can ever get back to where we were with that, I think, is a valid question. But watch last night, Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, on stage with President Trump. I want to get your thoughts on this. Let's watch.
I want to thank you very much, Gretchen. Good job. I'm not supposed to do that. She's a Democrat. They say, don't do that. Don't have her here. I said, no, she's going to be here.
Well, I hadn't planned to speak. I'm so grateful that this announcement was made today, and I appreciate all the work. Thank you.
So Governor Whitmer seems to be finding some common ground with the president on this. It was a project that meant a lot to her and to her state to bring those fighter jets back to Selfridge Air National Guard base. So do you applaud her coordinating with him on that, or are you critical of it?
Oh, as a governor, when any president of any party does something that helps your people, you ought to give them credit. I will say that Donald Trump's FEMA is doing a very good job in Kentucky responding to natural disasters. He has okayed individual assistance to our families in 2 separate natural disasters. And for that, we're grateful. And so in any administration, when you're a governor, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, your job is to your people and to better their lives. So when a president does something that's good for your state, yes, you should give him credit.
Yeah. So what do you say when you hear Schumer talk about 100 days of hell? I mean, is that, is that the way you think that your party should be going right now with this kind of talk?
Well, being governor is a little different than being in Congress. But I will say that I see 2 incredibly concerning threats out there from this administration, if not 3. First is the tariffs. We've talked about that. I think it's having a significant negative impact on our economy and will continue to do so. Second are the threatened Medicaid cuts that would gut, if not eliminate, health care coverage across all of rural America. And third, and I'm seeing this firsthand as governor, these massive firings in the federal government are creating either so few people or too inexperienced of people that are left to run some basic programs that the American people count on and that haven't been viewed as political at all.
Well, I mean, we've seen a massive explosion in the amount spent on government agencies. So you don't think there's any waste there that needed to be cut? I mean, it certainly didn't happen in the last administration.
I think we can always try to be more efficient. I think we can always try to be more effective, but there's a difference in trying to fix something and break something. And coming in and doing a 40% cut across the board without looking at who has the expertise, about who has the leadership, about what programs are being impacted, I think is very short-sighted. I think there is a way to do this. I think presidents of both parties in the past have done it well, but this approach, I think, was callous. And telling people that have served for a decade that they're being fired because of poor work performance when we know it isn't true.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Right.
You have to go case by case to make sure that that person was performing, up to par and that they were actually doing a good job and they were actually bettering the situation for the American people. The administration and the president has said many times that he will not take away Medicaid or Medicare or Social Security benefits from anyone who has earned them, and that the goal is to find the waste, fraud, and abuse in these programs, which we know exists. So do you have any problem with cutting waste and fraud and abuse from the Medicaid program? Don't you think that's a good idea?
So first, on the last question, when you see tens of thousands of letters that all have the exact same thing to hardworking federal employees and veterans, you know it's an excuse and not the reason. On Medicaid and Medicare, the way you root out abuse, I know I was Attorney General. We had a Medicaid fraud unit, and you look for those providers that are overbilling, that are doing wrong, that are charging for things that are never happening.
Absolutely.
But if what you do are just major cuts to preserve some tax cut that provides states significantly less money that's needed, just watch. That rural hospital will close. When you look at the amount of their revenue that is covered by Medicaid, they simply can't exist without it. And rural Americans deserve to see a doctor in their own community. They shouldn't have to drive hours just to see a primary care doctor.
But you can see that the administration has said that they will not cut services from Medicaid. That's what he has said repeatedly. I think what you see is Congress looking at that. And remember, you can say you're not going to cut services, but if you cut the overall amount going to states, then you make the states do what you say you're not doing. But yes, this is coming out of Congress. Well,
right now, we hope Congress will not do it. And President Trump could be a good voice to push Congress not to do it.
Thank you, Governor Beshear. Interesting to talk to you. I appreciate your time. I hope you'll come back soon.